Hello and welcome to Kent Tonight Live on KMTV. I'm Kristen Hawthorne and here are your top stories on Tuesday the 18th of November. Stopping the stigma. Canterbury donor demands change to paid leave laws for IVF treatment.
It's something that women should be allowed paid leave for, but you may feel a little bit like you're being discriminated against.
Livid in Lenham. Residents protest 5,000 home development.
What's at stake here is the fabric and community cohesion here in Lenham.
And how's it going? Canterbury Hospital opens therapeutic space for reflection and recovery.
So this is a great resource. It's one that we've been really needing for a long time.
But our first top story, an egg donor in Canterbury has nationwide calls for fair workplace treatment for others involved in IVF. In the UK, there's no legal requirement by employers to offer paid leave to those attending appointments for the procedure. The move comes as part of a wider initiative to tackle the stigma around fertility in the workplace, as Megan Shaw has been finding out.
Imagine spending 2 weeks injecting yourself with hormones before undergoing a surgical procedure, all while needing to go to work as usual. This was the experience of Canterbury resident Olivia France, who has donated her eggs twice this year.
Like 2 weeks of injecting sort of twice a day with the different hormones, and then you'd book in for your procedure. I had to go up to London for that. So that was, going up early morning, having the procedure, which was just a day procedure under sedation, and then sort of they check you a couple of hours later, then just head home.
1 in 153 children in the UK are conceived using donors. And yet, there are no legal rights around seeking fertility treatment and therefore no paid leave by law for those like Olivia with extra appointments and circumstances. She feels this needs to change.
Do I take sick leave? Is there paid leave for this? And I found it was quite a difficult one to navigate, sort of reading all the procedures and policies and going through all the fine print of like, well, where do I actually fall in and can I take paid leave for this or not? And absolutely, I think it is something that women should be allowed paid leave for.
But for employers, is implementing robust company policy for those like Olivia a viable option?
The answer really is that employers are often reluctant to give rights where they don't exist in law from fear of creating precedents and, sort of perhaps enabling someone to ask for time off for a different reason, to point at an individual and say, well, you allowed for time off on that occasion for someone's IVF treatment. Why can't you allow me paid time off for let's say some other?
For Olivia, who donates some eggs to a clinic and freezes the rest for a possible future, and for others undergoing IVF treatment, the movement might be about more than just pay.
It is a shame that we are not understanding this big change in the society, because we all should look at women in a different way now. We should give them the freedom to get pregnant when they think is the right time for them. And they need to be supported, and it shouldn't be a way to hide themselves.
With the government's Employment Rights Bill in its final stages, and with its emphasis on a flexible working environment, this could be fertile ground for the kind of change these advocates might want to see. Megan Shaw for KMTV in Canterbury.
And Megan actually joins me now with more. So Megan, in your report there, you mentioned that women don't get paid leave for IVF treatment. What do they have to do then? Do they have to go after work or during their lunch? What do they have to do?
Well, exactly that, yeah. So a lot of women were finding kind of ways to attend these appointments, and there are quite a few when you're kind of undergoing these procedures, whether that be for IVF or just donating eggs in their lunch after work. And that's not only because of not having paid leave, but also because of kind of the stigma there of not wanting to seem unprofessional or seem like, they're not prioritising their job. and trying to make sure that maybe colleagues don't find out. Women might also be forced to take their sick leave or their holiday pay, which some people might not want to do. So these kind of calls to have paid fertility leave and paid leave to be able to go to these fertility treatments was quite important to some of these people because they didn't want to kind of dip into these other sorts of leave that they might have.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, the other side of this is actually the employers. I mean, what's the benefit of this for them? Because, you know, they would have maybe difficulties as well if they have a small team or things like that. What's the benefits for them?
Well, in the report there, it says kind of the difficulties employers might be facing. Mm-hmm. It might be quite tricky to implement something like this, especially because it's not the law. Maybe I was speaking to that solicitor there. He was saying that a lot of employers were kind of hesitant to implement something that wasn't a legal necessity. But there are there are benefits. There are reasons why employers might want to implement something like this. There are financial reasons for that. So they did the campaign group Fertility Matters at Work did a study. And they found that companies that don't offer this fertility support for their employees could be losing 217.3 million out of sick leave or other leaves that their employees are taking because they don't have a designated kind of leave for that. And also employees that do offer this support are maybe more attractive to quite a large number of their employees. A lot of people are conceiving or wanting to have children a bit later, so it's definitely a factor. People might want to work somewhere.
Of course, and we have run out of time, but I think it's very interesting here as well that there's recent data that's found that there's a shortage of Black and Asian egg donors. So hopefully we will discuss that later in the show, but I thought that was worth mentioning. Very interesting. Thank you, Megan. Now, a father of 5 is facing prison after dragging a police officer along a road in Chatham while he clung on to the driver's door as he sped off. Tony Atherton was spotted by police behind the wheel of a Ford Puma driving dangerously in the town on Halloween. After stepping out of the vehicle during a stop, Atherton got back in and drove off at speed while the officer held on to the door. The officer avoided serious injury. Atherton pleaded guilty to all the charges and has been remanded in custody. The case has been sent to Maidstone Crown Court for sentencing. Next, plans for a controversial 24-hour alcohol delivery service at a corner shop in Canterbury have been approved following a licensing meeting. The application from Wine Mart on St Dunstan Street drew objections from police and local councillors who raised concerns about potential noise and late-night disturbance. Shop owners, though, say the service will operate with stricter controls and dedicated overnight staffing to address those issues. Approving the move, Councillor Mike Bland said the council hopes it works and that they know it's going to be something new in the area. Next, weather conditions have extended major roadwork closures in Sittingbourne. The multi-million-pound scheme working to transform the Grovehurst roundabout has been in construction for more than 2 years. Parts of the junction have been shut since the start of the month and were expected to reopen yesterday. But due to those weather conditions, these closures have extended to Thursday. Queues were trailing back for 3 miles on the A006 last Thursday morning, and with a number of other closures also being pushed back, more delays are unfortunately expected. The B0026, I forgot that right now, plans for a 5,000 home garden settlement in Lenham have been coming under renewed scrutiny. Members of Save Our Heathlands campaign have voiced growing concerns about the scale of the project in the village. They say infrastructure, transport links and local services simply aren't ready for it, while council leaders insist the scheme is needed to help meet housing demand, as Henry Luck has been reporting.
This is the sound of the people of Lenham who are opposing 5,000 new homes being built in their area. Part of the Save Our Heathlands group, these residents gathered outside a public consultation to express why these new houses would not be suitable for the area.
What's at stake here is the fabric and community cohesion here in Lenham. For a small medieval village that will be completely overwhelmed by this monstrous new town that will be put on our doorstep.
Dozens of Lenham residents turned up to this protest to express why they feel this housing plan isn't suitable for the area.
It's not the only place in the county where this sort of development is creeping through, and quite frankly it's not good enough. Lenham deserves better.
I think someone who's lived in this village for their entire life deserves to live out the rest of life in peace and tranquility, and I think this is really going to disrupt that. And for the majority of people here, it will be a very painful and prolonged experience and painful experience for them.
There is no way we can understand how it affects our community. We need that before anything goes in, or even if it's the right thing to do.
Maidstone Borough Council have said these sites have been approved as part of its local plan, and that these consultations give members of the public a chance to offer feedback on the project. The council adds that this will allow people to ensure the plans reflect local needs and minimise environmental impacts. It looks like these new homes will be making their way to Lenham, but residents and members of Save Our Heathlands argue these plans will be too big for this little farmland. The consultation will be open until midnight on Monday the 15th of December. Henry Luck for KMTV in Lenham.
Listen to the community! Say no to Heathlands! Listen to the community!
Time for a quick break now, but coming up, I was speaking to a 22-year-old Letty McMaster from Tunbridge Wells, who became the legal guardian of 9 Tanzanian children. All of that and more after this break. Bye-bye. Hello and welcome back to Kent Tonight Live here on KMTV. Now, a woman from Tunbridge Wells who became the legal guardian of 9 children while volunteering in Tanzania has told us about her plans to expand her life-changing work. Letty McMaster took the children in after the orphanage she was working at closed amid reports of abuse and neglect, relying at first on her own student loan to support them. Fast forwarding to today, and the 31-year-old has raised 15 children and helped more than 100 young people facing homelessness with her own charity called Street Children Iringa. We spoke to Letty earlier on. Thanks so much for joining us this evening, Letty. Can you tell me, first of all, what's the process in becoming a legal guardian to 9 children at the age of just 22? And how long, what was the process that got you to that moment?
So I first went out to Tanzania when I was 18, and I just went out on like a normal volunteering gap year trip. And when I was out there, I came across an orphanage it turned out to be a very abusive orphanage with many street children living here. So when I was there and witnessed the abuse that they were going through, I was determined to give them a place to call home where they could be safe and receive the love and care that they deserved. So I spent the most of the next 3 years out in Tanzania, learning the language and raising funds to support children at this orphanage. And then when I was 22, the orphanage was shut down by the government, and the local social welfare registered me as the legal guardian of 9 children who were left homeless, and I then opened a home to raise them in.
And then what was it like for you? Did you find it to be quite difficult at the time? I can imagine maybe your other friends were having quite different lives. Maybe what was it like kind of being such a young woman doing this incredible thing?
Obviously it was difficult, of course, but at the time I kind of was just so determined that I loved those children so much, and I saw them as a family, like a second family to me. I saw them as my younger brothers and sisters, and I was just determined to get them out of that situation.
Okay, and then tell me about the charity itself and the work that you do in Tanzania and kind of the projects that you've been working on within that charity as well.
Yeah, so I set up my charity Street Children Iringa after opening the home in order to support the home and all the children living in it. And so over the past 9 years, I've raised 15 children and young adults through that home. And that's completely changed their lives, with children going on to become professional boxers and footballers, and some are now in employment or at university. And so I set up my second home called the Safe House, which supports current street children that are living on the streets right now, and helping them with support and guidance in a life away from the streets. And that helps 100 children per year. But over the past 9 years, the children that I've helped through the home have all gone on to do so well. And one of the boys who I actually found at the abusive orphanage when he was just 10 years old, and I became his legal guardian when he was 12, and we moved into the home together. After supporting him through my charity over the past 9 years, he ended up getting the best A-level results in Tanzania and is now studying at the best university in Africa, the University of Cape Town. So they've all done so well. But that's what my charity does. It supports the home, the Safe House, and now I'm actually on to opening my third house, which is supporting young mums and their babies off the streets. And I'll be opening this in a different region to help them with a life away from the streets.
It's an incredible story, it really is. And I'm just sort of wondering, what would you say to other women who are maybe the same age as you, who are thinking of doing this, but maybe don't feel like they can or they have the right resources?
I don't know what I'd really suggest, just because it is a very specific thing that I've done, and I don't really know how I would suggest someone else to go about it. But I would say, obviously, if you are able to help people, then it doesn't have to be going over to Tanzania and setting up something, but you can help people just around you in day-to-day life. I think if you are fortunate enough to do that, then we can always help other people around us.
And is there anything anyone can do to help you in that? Is there anywhere people can donate or fundraise or leave in and maybe things that you might need?
Donations obviously are the most helpful thing possible, and anyone can, monthly donations or corporate sponsors, anything like that is so helpful, and anyone can donate via the website, which is streetchildreniringa.org. There's a donate page there, and there's also, if you type into Google Total Giving and Street Children Iringa, there's a link that any donations go directly to the charity account. So all of that would be so helpful. And like, for example, it was actually a corporate sponsor, Children's Salon, who are in Tunbridge Wells, who raised £30,000 in order for me to set up this young mum's home, which I'll be setting up in the new year. So all of that support is incredibly helpful.
Always good to have a positive story in the news. But now it's time to take a look at the sports news from across the county.
Here is your sports news for the evening. Starting off at the football, as Chatham Town are set to make history as they make it to the FA Cup third round for the first time ever with a win over Wimborne Town last Saturday. Tensions were high as the game looked to be a 0-0 stalemate. However, Chatham scored in the 90th plus 10th minute to grab the win. This has been a successful season for the Chats, beginning with their qualification for the FA Cup first round for the first time in a century, to now performing well in the Isthmian League as they are currently third. Chatham will go on to host Plymouth Parkway next month for their third round draw. Over to the rugby, as the Tunbridge Juddians fell narrowly short last Saturday after attempting an impressive comeback in their National League 1 game against Sale FC. The Juddians struggled in the first half as a couple of defensive lapses put them down 14-0 within the first 17 minutes. The tides would change in the second half with points from Tom Kendrick and Tom Mannix closing the gap to just 2 points, but this was not enough as Sale FC took control of the game once more, ending the game with a 33-26 victory. This leaves the Juddians 8th in the table, with their next game coming against 11th places Leeds Tykes next Saturday. Next in the world of motorsport, Dover's Jake Dixon wrapped up his final Moto2 race with a nail-biting 6th place comeback, wrapping up the season 5th in the championship. It was a tall task for Dixon last weekend at Valencia, as he could only qualify for 17th place with a best lap of 1 minute at 32.527 seconds, but clawed his way back up to 6th with an impressive comeback performance. This will be his one and only season with the Elf Mark VDS racing team, as he looks to move to Honda in the World Superbikes Championship next year. And finally, Minster's 3-time Paralympic medalist Ross Wilson has announced his retirement from table tennis last week due to a series of injuries. In 2011, after a diagnosis of epiphyseal dysplasia, a condition that affects the growing ends of the bones, he joined the GB Para team. His illustrious career included medals won at 3 consecutive Paralympics, starting at London 2012, with further wins at the Commonwealth Games in Australia 2018. Wilson says that injuries have definitely been the biggest challenge through his career, but that he is really proud of what he's accomplished in that time. That's all for your sports bulletin this evening. Daniel Ward, KMTV.
But now, don't forget you can keep up to date with all our latest stories across Kent by logging on to our website, kmtv.co.uk. There you'll find all our reports, including this one, where a storm left residents' homes in Who littered with sewage.
I just can't imagine even gardening being the same. You just keep thinking about the smell and the state and the mess, paper and everything everywhere.
Helen Bruce's garden contaminated with waste. A sign of the stink that's come after the storm in the Who Peninsula. It was on the 20th of October the 80-year-old saw sewage leaking down her drive after heavy rainfall, ruining a space she says was sculpted by her husband, who now has dementia.
Like when my husband was at home, he braked the drive and everything, and it's just sitting and seeing it all. Just everything he's done, made the drive, the steps, it's even run down the path. It just makes me feel ill, the fact that things that he's done have been ruined with actual sewage.
You can see Southern Water hard at work behind me, clearing up some of these sewage overflows. But people living in the property say this isn't enough.
It's absolutely disgusting. This shouldn't be happening. They should have sorted the problem out. They've had 3 weeks to sort this out. What have they done? Nothing.
Tracy and Stephen Medhurst live 2 doors down on Marley Road. They've had to clear out their garage after what they say is the second bout of flooding in recent weeks.
Last 3 weeks we've had a horrible stench in the house. It's just permeating through the house. We cannot get rid of the smell. And no mention of any possible compensation, so I can't see them ever doing anything. I mean, I don't even know what channel we could go through to actually try and get compensation, to be honest.
Local councillor Michael Pearce has already written to the water company on the matter, saying this should never have happened in the first place.
There are many elderly residents here who have suffered a lot of distress from this situation, which has been ongoing for some weeks now. This isn't the first time it's happened, and as we're entering the winter period, we're likely to see more heavy downpours of rain, which is just going to exacerbate the situation. So this needs to be resolved quickly, and my residents need to be compensated for the distress, and I will push that quite hard.
In a statement, Southern Water said its teams found blockages in underground pipes along Marley Road and removed unflushables, wet wipes, fats, oils and grease, which caused external flooding, while also blaming heavy rainfall. But despite the company saying they've provided online forms as regards any customer compensation, the distress here is hard to put a price tag on. Ollie Leader in Who.
But what will the weather look like over the next few days? Let's take a look. Later tonight, we will see that chilly trend continue with an average of 5 degrees and partly cloudy skies across the board. Into tomorrow morning, things are staying about the same, with temperatures reaching 3 degrees, some light rain across the county as well. There will be improvements by the evening though, with rain clearing up and some sun peeking through, wind speeds reaching up to 23 miles per hour, not that bad. And here is the outlook. The brisk weather will continue into Thursday with partly cloudy skies, 6 degrees on Friday, clear skies, and 9 degrees on Saturday, cloudy skies. Well, it's time for a quick break coming up, but we'll be back in a few minutes. See you then. Bye. Hello and welcome back to Kent Tonight Live on KMTV. I'm Kristen Hawthorne and here's a reminder of your top stories on Tuesday the 18th of November. Stopping the stigma. Canterbury donor demands change to paid leave laws for IVF treatment. Livid in Lenham. Residents protest 5,000 home development. And how's it going? Canterbury Hospital opens therapeutic space for reflection and recovery. But a reminder of our top story tonight. An egg donor in Canterbury has nationwide calls for fair workplace treatment for others involved in IVF. In the UK, there's no legal requirement by employers to offer paid leave to those attending appointments for the procedure. But the move comes as part of a wider initiative to tackle the stigma around fertility in the workplace, as Megan Shaw has been finding out.
Imagine spending 2 weeks injecting yourself with hormones before undergoing a surgical procedure, all while needing to go to work as usual. This was the experience of Canterbury resident Olivia France, who has donated her eggs twice this year.
Like 2 weeks of injecting sort of twice a day with the different hormones. And then you'd book in for your procedure. I had to go up to London for that. So that was, going up early morning, having the procedure, which was just a day procedure under sedation. And then sort of they check you a couple of hours later, then just, head home.
1 in 153 children in the UK are conceived using donors. And yet, there are no legal rights around seeking fertility treatment and therefore no paid leave by law for those like Olivia with extra appointments and circumstances. She feels this needs to change.
Do I take sick leave? Is there paid leave for this? And I found it quite a difficult one to navigate, sort of reading all the procedures and policies and going through all the fine print of like, well, where do I actually fall in and can I take, paid leave for this or not? And absolutely, I think it is something that women should be allowed paid leave for.
But for employers, is implementing robust company policy for those like Olivia a viable option?
The answer really is that employers are often reluctant to give rights where they don't exist in law from fear of creating precedents and, sort of perhaps enabling someone to ask for time off for a different reason, to point at an individual and say, well, you allowed for time off on that occasion for someone's IVF treatment. Why can't you allow me paid time off for, let's say some other?
For Olivia, who donates some eggs to a clinic and freezes the rest for a possible future, and for others undergoing IVF treatments, the movement might be about more than just pay.
It is a shame that we are not understanding this big change in the society, because we all should look at women in a different way now. We should give them the freedom to get pregnant when they think is the right time for them. And they need to be supported, and it shouldn't be a way to hide themselves.
With the government's employment rights bill in its final stages, and with its emphasis on a flexible working environment, this could be fertile ground for the kind of change these advocates might want to see. Megan Shaw for KMTV in Canterbury.
Next, a Sittingbourne delivery driver who was beaten up while at work has said the attack forced him to adopt a body cam. The attack, which took place outside of a shop on Railway Street in Chatham 3 years ago, left Stephen Golding fearful for his safety. His attacker has now been sentenced, but Stephen says it's not enough. Not enough is being done to tackle everyday violence. Our reporter Chloe Brewster is here with me now to tell us more. So, tell us what happened.
So Stephen Golding, as you can see there with his lovely wife, he'd been going out working as a courier in Chatham. So he was delivering a parcel as normal before he went to approach a shop where shopkeeper Tazim Chowdhury was inside. He told Chowdhury that he was unable to deliver the parcel inside the shop because of his insurance, and Chowdhury responded by hurling threats and following Stephen as he went back to his car. He actually then ended up punching Stephen, who ended up with severe bleeding and bruising, so bad we can't actually show the pictures. Stephen was then out of work for a month and says the incident really impacted him.
And I mentioned there at the start that he did get justice, but he doesn't feel like it's enough. Can you explain a bit about that?
So the incident happened in 2022, so a while back, and sentencing was actually earlier this month. The 23-year-old Chowdhury pled guilty and was handed a 12-month sentence, which was suspended for 18 months. And he then has to also complete a rehabilitation course. Stephen says the incident left him feeling like he had to look over his shoulder all the time, and he now wears a body cam regularly when he goes out to work. So he says the sentence just isn't enough.
And, I mean, is violence really on the rise? I mean, will more people start to have to wearing body cams?
So looking at the Kent Police stats, Chatham, the levels of violence and sexual violence has actually decreased from September 2024. So there were 63 incidents last year in September and 48 this year. We very recently saw a crackdown against violence in Chatham High Street, but we have to see whether that's actually going to come into force and if people in Kent will be able to see a difference.
Yeah, hopefully. Thank you so much, Chloe. Now, an abandoned garden centre and cafe near Canterbury could be transformed into a multi-million-pound healthcare residency. The Preston-based establishment was shut in August last year after its owners won a bid to build 5 new homes on some of their land. The former garden centre was put on the market for nearly £1.5 million and purchased by Superior Healthcare, who specialises in supporting those with complex needs. The company is looking to change the site into residential accommodation to support patients and their families, a community hub, and also plans to refresh and reopen the Coppers Bistro to the public. Next, families in Sheerness have been living in what they call hellish and horrendous conditions after neighbouring properties in Alma Street were converted into HMOs without warning. They say the change has led to constant noise, antisocial behaviour and a deterioration of their quality of life. Council officials say the conversations were approved under existing planning rules, but residents argue those rules don't protect communities, as Joe Crossley has been reporting.
This is the noise that fed-up families living in Sheerness have had to part with for more than 2 months. Neighbours have been telling us that it has been hell living next to 20 Alma Street, a Victorian terrace house being converted into a 6-bed house of multiple occupancy. Normally planning permission is not needed to turn a building into a HMO for less than 6 people, but as the house is in the Marine Town Conservation Area, the landlord should have got approval from Swale Council before starting the work on September 8th. Since then, residents say they have been having sleepless nights because of the construction work, which includes a roof extension. Grandmother of one, Anne Tiller, lives next door and says it has been hell.
The last 2 months in my little house has been hell. I've had holes in my wall, holes in my bedroom, water down my front porch, by my electricity cupboard, and the noise has been horrendous. Past 8 weeks, near enough all the work has been completed. And today we all had an email saying planning permission has been put in. Now to me that don't sound right. It don't sound right. We've been put through hell, ringing, sending emails, messages, and we've just got that confirmation now.
Swale Council says it has received complaints about the possible breach of planning at 20 Alma Street and informed the owner that their plans for the home did not fall under the permitted development. The landlord has submitted a retrospective planning application on October 24th, which will be considered by the authority. When I visited the property on Monday, November 1st, I knocked on the door twice in an attempt to contact the landlord. We got no answer and left a note for the owner. Joe Crossley for KMTV in Sheerness.
Now, with the United Nations meeting in their annual climate change conference, COP30 has been taking place in Brazil, where world leaders hold a summit discussing important change that needs to be made in order to tackle climate change. We spoke to the people of Medway to get their thoughts.
I know that COP30 is, I think it's, like a meeting of all the different leaders around the world who, have agendas in climate and how it may affect their own countries. And they meet to sort of discuss what they can do moving forward, trying to decrease the temperature, global temperature, and things like that.
I'm very much for environmentalism and sustainability. We should be pursuing green energy and healthy environment for sure.
Stopping any form of climate change, then I'm all for it. You know, we've always been raised upon go green, save what you can when you can.
Absolutely, yeah. We should be transferring to like renewable energy. We should be trying to keep the environment clean between all of us. Like, yeah, that is very important. I think. Yeah, we should be. Sometimes it makes me sad seeing how much the world is concretified or industrialized. We need more nature.
In a way, I think the best thing you could do for climate change is to adopt a simpler life. We have to learn to deal with a lot less electricity and a lot less consumerism. A simpler life is the only solution.
In terms of it, public transport where you can is always a good shout. Yes, it's expensive, but I suppose the more demand for it, the less expensive it can be in some cases.
Coming up shortly after the break, Finn McDermott joins us to tell us more about Cambridge Dictionary's Word of the Year, parasocial. And house builder Red Row has teamed up with Kenton Medway NHS Trust to create a relaxation space at St Martin's Hospital in Canterbury. And you can find out more with Henry Luck, which will be coming up after the break. And we'll also be taking a look back at a story I did where a new law stops landlords from banning pets without a good reason. All of that and more to come in just a few minutes. So I'll see you back here I'll see you back here then. Hello and welcome back to Kent Tonight live on KMTV. Now, Kent and the country have been given the news that Cambridge Dictionary have named their word of the year, which is parasocial. This describes a relationship characterised by a one-sided, unreciprocated sense of intimacy, why can I not say that word? I'll have to get Finn to help me. Felt by a fan or a follower of a well-known or prominent figure. And joining us now is Finn to tell us more. So what is the meaning of the word parasocial and how do we... Yes.
Yeah, intimacy is the word you're looking for there.
Why has it been given the win?
It's been given the win because it's following this trend of words that have kind of worked their way into the cultural zeitgeist, meaning they kind of sum up the times, really. So parasocial actually means involving or relating to a connection that someone feels between themselves and a famous person they don't know, such as a character in a book, film, TV series, etc., or even artificial intelligence. Now, it's not a word that many people would hear and instantly recognise. You know, I don't use parasocial too much in my day-to-day, but it tends to be, like I say, that the word relates to the year itself. And we've seen a huge surge in AI and fan culture. I mean, Swifties at the Super Bowl, this sort of thing. I think it was Chapel Roan at the VMAs last year when she basically had a go at one of the photographers who was being rude to her, and she said, well, just because I'm a celebrity doesn't mean people think they can just yell at me, and that sort of thing, which is fair enough. And with the increase of AI, we've had AI companions and all that sort of thing that's really added to the idea of this parasocialism, this one-way relationship between whether it's people and celebrities or people and their, AI companions.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite heard of on YouTube as well. Lots of YouTubers say some of their subscribers maybe think that they're quite close friends just because you get to know so much about the person. But of course, they don't know much about their fans. What kinds of words tend to be word of the year? I think we had 6, 7 last week, didn't we?
Well, that's actually not quite right. It was that was new words that are being added to the dictionary. I believe the Oxford, but I'd have to be checked on where exactly 6, 7 went.
Okay, so it's a bit different.
Yeah, it is slightly different. But we've seen loads of different words, whether it's austerity, populism, nomophobia, which means the fear of not having your phone, upcycling, and obviously words like quarantine and things during those kind of years.
Okay, well, very interesting. Thank you so much, Finn. Next, a place for reflection and recovery. That's what a new summer house at St Martin's Hospital in Canterbury is hoping to offer to those patients most in need. House builder Redrow has teamed up with the Kent and Medway NHS Trust to create the space. Henry Luck has been speaking to those behind the project about the difference they hope it will make to the hospital community.
While we're all in the thick of autumn, St Martin's Hospital is aiming to bring some sunshine to its patients here in Canterbury. Together with Redrow, they've just revealed a brand new summer house, complete with activities designed to help patients relax and de-stress. This new summer house has all sorts of activities to help patients relax, from painting, yoga, to just having a good conversation.
So this is a great resource. It's one that we've been really needing for a long time. It's something that we couldn't do on our own, and working in partnership with Redrow has allowed us to get this opportunity so people can come here, patients and staff can come here for art therapy, for meditation, for yoga, which is outside of their normal wards that they're being treated in, to really grab that opportunity to do something different while they're with us.
Well, we would absolutely love for it to be expanded upon, but the project this itself has been an incredible success. I mean, right from the very conception of the project and all the way through, it's been a pleasure to work on. Redrow have been so much fun to have alongside us. The patients have really enjoyed seeing it being built as well. They've really enjoyed seeing everyone at work and having chats with people and just having the time of their lives. And we've had the time of our lives working with them too.
And of course, there are plans to make use of this new facility in the new year.
So I think it provides a space for them to actually have time to themselves. I mean, clearly, when the weather's better, they can come down here. They can use it, to chat. They can have events down here, which they've talked about to us, next year. They've talked about having Halloween events here and summer events here as well. And I think it's just a great space for the patients here.
With Christmas closing in, St Martin's Hospital and Redrow are determined to help patients beat the winter blues. Henry Luck for KMTV in Canterbury.
Now, don't forget you can keep up to date with all our latest stories across Kent by logging onto our website, kmtv.co.uk. There you'll find all the reports, including this one, where a new law means landlords are no longer allowed to ban pets without a good reason. A new law has been passed to make it easier for tenants in private rental properties to keep pets, by preventing landlords from denying responsible renters without a valid reason. Dee Bonnet, whose campaign led Maidstone Council to allow pets in temporary accommodation, knows firsthand the difference this kind of change can make.
Some people don't want to be pet owners, they don't want that responsibility, but they love pets. So the guy, or Rocky's dad, obviously, owns Rocky, and the other two guys here, they may not want that responsibility, but they love having Rocky around. So, you know, if one of them's left in the house and they're with Rocky, that's the company, the love, and, you know, Rocky doesn't want anything apart from being fed, being warmed and being loved, you know, and he gives so much love back, as you've seen this afternoon.
He's been really good for my recovery. Yeah, if I didn't have him, I'd feel worthless, you know, because I've lost everything and he's basically my family.
But is this new law something that everyone agrees with?
Yeah, I think renters should definitely have the right to have an animal or a pet. It's good for well-being, it's good for the children, and I think it's part of your rights as a tenant to be able to have a pet, definitely.
It's a case for a conversation, really. I know now things are so impersonal because you go through the agents and so on, and the agents do most of the vetting before you actually even have a chance to talk to the prospective tenant.
I agree with that. I was going to say my mother lived in a warden-assisted place, and they weren't allowed to have pets, and I thought that was a bit terrible, as she owned the property as well.
Although people say that this is a positive change, those at the Kenwood Trust say that while it is a step in the right direction, that there's still a long way to go.
For us, we would be keen to explore other ways of increasing the amount of supported accommodation, social housing, where pets are able to access that sort of accommodation. I think that's really important, that people can access the accommodation, all types of accommodation, whether that be private rented, social housing, supported accommodation, and have access to their animals still. You know, it's really important for us all to consider ways that can be improved moving forward.
While the new law has been welcomed by campaigners and animal charities, questions remain over how it will work in practice. But for those like Wayne, having a pet is already making a world of a difference. Kristen Hawthorne for KMTV, Maidstone. Now, time to take a quick look at the weather. Later tonight, we will see that chilly trend continue and an average of 5 degrees and partly cloudy skies across the board. Into tomorrow morning, things are staying about the same, with temperatures reaching 3 degrees with some light rain across the county as well. There will also be improvements by the evening, with the rain clearing up and some sun peeking through. Wind speeds picking up to 23 miles per hour though. Thursday, partly cloudy skies, 4 degrees. Friday, clear skies, 6 degrees. And Saturday, 9 degrees. Cloudy skies. And after the break, there will be a new episode of News Nuggets covering important topics all across Kent for primary school children. News Nuggets tackles stories about local politics and democracy and allows our younger generation to explore the importance of our local area. From elections to food waste to who runs our sports clubs, each episode takes a deep dive into anything and everything about how our county runs. Here's a sneak peek into episode 3.
Hello, I'm Abby and welcome to News Nuggets. This week we'll be learning about health and the NHS. So let's meet this week's News Nuggets.
Is this your favourite one to go on?
No! Me neither!
So why are Fletcher and Nala so important to your school?
I think it's really nice having the dogs around. They make everyone feel so happy.
What about for your mental health too, Lorenzo?
Well, sometimes it just makes people's day.
What is the NHS and how does it work?
The National Health Service was created in 1948 so that people in the UK wouldn't have to pay to get help with their health. It's funded by tax. Tax is something grown-ups pay, so we get public services.
This is my room, I know, because it's got my name on it.
What even is a GP? How many people come to the doctors a day?
You'd be very surprised how many. I normally see 30 to 40 people per day, and if you look across Kent, there are 1 million appointments a month.
This is our class. Hi!
Today we're joined by two very special guests. We have a doctor and someone in pharmacy too.
What's the difference between a pharmacist and a doctor?
Well, actually there's less of a difference than there used to be. Whereas before, perhaps if you had a sore throat or an earache, you'd have to come to me first and then go to the pharmacy, to the chemist to get those things. Now you can go to a pharmacist and they can do all of that themselves.
Let's round up what we've learnt today. We've learnt what a GP is and how lots of people can help us to stay healthy. Well, joining us in the studio is Charlie and Dave from the Dog Mentor.
Dave's job is to help children in the school that I work in if they're a bit anxious about coming into school.
How do you think mental health and physical health are linked?